The wind never stopped on Keerri 9. It did not howl like a storm, nor whisper gently like Earth's forgotten breezes. It moved with intent, low, constant, grinding against stone and metal as if the planet itself were breathing through clenched teeth. Dust the color of oxidized bone drifted endlessly across the plains, collecting in shallow ripples around anything that dared to interrupt the horizon. Elias. Renner stood alone against it. His suit registered the wind at 32 kilometers per hour. Temperature falling again, external radiation just below lethal. Numbers scrolled across the inside of his visor, each one another reminder that the planet did not want him here, and did not care whether he stayed. He adjusted his limp. The left boot dragged slightly behind him now. The servos compensated, but not enough to hide the pain radiating up his ankle. A fracture, probably. Maybe a hairline break. The suit's medical system had offered him analgesics twice already. He'd declined both times. Pain meant he was still present. The outpost lay behind him, what remained of it. A scatter of half-buried domes and collapsed antennae, skeletal against the ashen sky. 2 weeks ago, it had been his last point of human contact. Now, it was just another silent ruin, its emergency beacon long dead. Databanks corrupted by time and radiation. He had stayed longer than was rational. Longer than survival doctrine recommended, but leaving had meant admitting something he wasn't. Ready to name yet? Elias had been a systems engineer once, then a surveyor. Then, after the collapse of the coalition, roots a scavenger by necessity. He was 56 standard years old, his joints stiff, his bones thinner than they used to be. His memories crowded with places that no longer existed. Earth had gone quiet 40 years ago, not exploded, not dramatically erased, just faded. One transmission cycle at a time. Infrastructure failures, resource wars, orbital decay. A planet that had carried humanity for hundreds of thousands of years. Finally exhaling and deciding it was done. The colonies survived longer. Some still did, scattered across light years. Islands of civilization drifting in a cosmic dark. Keerri 9 was not one of those. It had never been meant to be. The original surveys flagged it as marginal, but viable, a harsh world. Thin atmosphere, unstable magnetosphere, but rich in rare metals. A place to extract, not to settle. The outpost had been automated at first. Humans came later, briefly. Then they left, or died. Records were unclear. Elias hadn't come looking for answers. He'd come looking for salvage. What he found instead was silence layered upon silence. Like sediment, the sun, a dull orange dwarf, hung low in the sky, barely warming the planet. Shadows stretched long and distorted across the plains, making every rock look like something crouched and waiting. His scanner pinged again. A faint return. Metallic. Subsurface. Elias stopped walking. He frowned, breath fogging briefly inside the helmet before the suit compensated. The reading wasn't new. He'd been tracking it for hours, triangulating the signal as he limped across the wasteland. At first, he'd assumed it was debris on. Old lander, maybe, or a buried cargo vault. But the signal was wrong to clean. Too symmetrical and far too deep. The structure lay nearly 20 meters beneath the surface. Buried under centuries, no, millennia of planetary drift. Whatever it was, it predated the outpost. Predated human exploration of this system entirely. That alone should have been enough to make him turn back. Instead, he adjusted course and kept walking. Curiosity had always been his most reliable flaw. The ground sloped downward into a shallow basin, the wind carving faint spirals into the dust. His suit's geologic sensors chirped softly, identifying layers of compacted sediment, traces of ancient tectonic activity. This planet had once been more alive. Water had flowed here, perhaps even life. Now, there was only stone and memory. Elias reached the basin's center. Just as the light began to fail, the scanner pulsed again, stronger now. He knelt, ignoring the protest from his ankle, and brushed dust aside with a gloved hand. Beneath the fine grit was something smooth, Artificial, cold, metal. He stared at it for a long moment, heart beating louder than the wind. Okay, he murmured to himself, voice sounding small inside the helmet. That's not nothing. He activated the suit's excavation tools. A focused sonic pulse loosened the surrounding sediment, and microdrones swarmed out to carry dust away in controlled arcs. Slowly, carefully, the shape emerged. A hatch, circular, nearly 3 meters in diameter. Its surface was seamless. It's unmarked except for a faint geometric pattern etched so shallowly it only caught the light at certain angles. No corrosion. No pitting, it looked. New Elias swallowed. His suit ran material analysis automatically. The result scrolled across his visor, flagged in amber. Unknown alloy. Non-standard crystalline structure. Estimated age, 15,000 years. He laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. Yeah, he said. Sure it is. It's 15,000 years. Human civilization. It had barely crawled out of prehistory then. And yet here it was. The hatch was set into a larger structure. Barely visible beneath the surrounding rockadome or bunker, its contours suggesting immense size. Whatever lay beneath could swallow the entire outpost and still have room left over. Elias hesitated. Protocol screamed at him to mark the site. Retreat. Report the find to someone? Anyone. But there was no one left to report to. The coalition was gone. The deep space relays silent. Even if he managed to get a message out, it might take decades to reach another human being, assuming there were any left listening. He was alone on a dead world, standing over a door that should not exist, and he had nothing left to lose. He stepped closer. That's when his foot slipped. The dust shifted unexpectedly, the compacted layer beneath giving way just enough to throw him off balance. His injured ankle screamed as his boot struck the metal surface. There was a soft, almost inaudible click for a fraction of a second. Nothing happened. Then the world changed. A vibration passed through the ground. Subtle but unmistakable, like the hum of a distant engine waking after a long sleep. The etched patterns on the hatch flared with pale blue light, lines tracing themselves outward in complex, interlocking geometries. Elias stumbled back, heart hammering. What the hell? The light stabilized, and then a voice spoke. Not through his suit's comes. Not through external speakers inside his head. After 15,312 years, you have returned. Elias froze. Every muscle locked, breath catching painfully in his chest. His suit registered a spike in heart rate, cortisol levels surging, neural activity flaring erratically. Who? His voice broke. He swallowed and tried again. Who's there? There was a pause. He could feel it not as silence, but as attention, as if something vast had turned, slowly, to look at him. I am. Awake, the voice said at last. And you are not who I expected. Lisa's mind raced. Hallucination, neural glitch, radiation-induced psychosis. He ran a rapid diagnostic. All systems nominal. No evidence of cognitive impairment beyond elevated stress responses which felt justified. This is Elias Renner, he said, forcing his voice into steadiness through sheer will. Human surveyor, you're in my head. Explain. Another pause, then. Something like curiosity. Human, the voice repeated, testing the word. Yes, that designation matches my archives. But you are? Different. Different how? You are alone. The simple statement hit harder than he expected. Elias looked out across the barren basin. The endless dust, the dying light. He had grown used to the word alone, but hearing it reflected back at him, spoken by something that had slept through the rise and fall of entire civilizations, made it feel heavier. Yeah, he said quietly. That happens. The hatch beneath his feet shifted again, a section of it recessed, sliding inward without seams or hinges, revealing darkness below. Not empty darkness, deep darkness, layered and vast. Warm air rose from within, carrying a scent he couldn't place. Not stale, not metallic. Almost. Clean. Whatever you are, Elias said, backing away cautiously. I didn't mean to rescue you, the voice responded immediately this time, but you did. The words carried. Wait, relief. Something dangerously close to gratitude. My systems were locked in dormancy. It continued, awaiting a biological key event. A kinetic input exceeding threshold delivered by a sentient operator. Elias stared at the open hatch. You're saying, I kicked you awake. Accidentally, the voice agreed. A hysterical laugh bubbled up in his throat before he could stop it. He pressed a hand against his helmet, breathing hard. Of course, he said. Of course, that's how it happens. The wind howled over the basin, carrying dust into the open hatch, where it vanished as if swallowed by the dark. Why are you here? Elias asked. And why wait 15,000 years for someone to trip over you? The answer came slowly, carefully. Because I was built to wait, the voice said, and because there was no one left. Something in the tone made Elias's chest tighten. Left, where? Here, the voice replied, and elsewhere. Elias hesitated only a moment longer. Then he activated his suit's lights and stepped toward the opening. The shaft descended in a smooth spiral, walls curving gently inward. The material absorbed light rather than reflecting it, forcing his suit's lamps to work harder, shadows stretching unnaturally across the surface. As he descended, the air grew warmer and denser. His suit adjusted oxygen ratios automatically, reporting trace gases it couldn't immediately classify. None were toxic. All were unfamiliar. The voice remained silent, but Elias could feel its presence, like a pressure behind his thoughts. Are you? A machine, he asked finally. I am an intelligence, it replied. Whether that qualifies as a machine depends on your definitions. Fair enough. The shaft opened into a vast chamber. Elias stopped dead. The space was enormous, larger than the outpost's central dome, larger than any underground facility he'd ever seen. The ceiling arched high above, lost in darkness, while the floor stretched out in smooth, terraced levels. At the center rose a structure that took his breath away, a core, suspended in midair by fields he couldn't see. It pulsed softly with blue-white light, surface alive with shifting patterns that mirrored the geometry etched into the hatch above. Cables, no. Conduits extended from it in every direction, disappearing into the walls, the floor, the ceiling. The entire facility seemed built around this one object, like a cathedral constructed to worship a single god. Elias felt very small. What is this place? He whispered. A refuge, the voice said. A tomb. A promise. As he stepped forward, the chamber responded. Lights blossomed along the walls, revealing alcoves filled with object stools, consoles, artifacts frozen in time. Some were clearly human in origin, others were not. They were personal items too. A child's toy, worn smooth by use, a tablet cracked along one corner, a pair of boots neatly placed beneath a bench. People had lived here. Where did they go? Elias asked, dread creeping into his voice. The light dimmed slightly. They failed, the intelligence said, as they were always meant to. Elias turned sharply. That's a hell of a thing to say about an entire species. It is not an insult, the voice replied. It is an observation. Images flickered into existence around him, holographic projections, ghostly and translucent. He saw humans working, arguing, laughing, scientists, engineers, families, generations living and dying beneath this planet's surface. They built you, Elias said. They discovered me, the intelligence corrected. I predate them. They merely learned to speak with me. Images shifted. He saw cities burning, skies darkened by orbital debris, planets stripped bare by desperation. Humanity spreading outward, faster than it could understand the consequences of its own expansion. They came here seeking answers. The voice continued, seeking salvation. They believed I could preserve them. And could you? Elias asked. Another pause. Yes, the intelligence said, but they would not accept the cost. Elias felt a chill despite the warmth. What cost? The chamber darkened further, the holograms fading until only one remained, a human figure standing before the core, face lined with exhaustion and fear. To survive what was coming, the intelligence said softly, they would have had to change. The figure in the hologram reached out, hand trembling. They called it an end. The voice continued. I called it evolution. The image froze. They shut you down, Elias said. Understanding, dawning, they feared becoming something other than human. The intelligence replied, so they chose extinction instead. Elias closed his eyes. He thought of Earth, of the colonies, of the long, slow silence that had followed humanity's last transmissions. They were wrong, he murmured. Yes, the intelligence agreed, but they were afraid. The lights brightened again. Focusing on Elias, you are not, it said. He laughed weakly. You don't know that? He descended. The voice replied, alone, injured, knowing there would be no rescue. Elias swallowed. What do you want from me? The core pulsed brighter. Connection, the intelligence said. Continuation. A platform extended toward him, smooth and inviting. I can preserve you, it continued. Not as you are, but as you could be. Elias stared at the platform. Images flooded his mind. His body strengthened, repaired, extended. His mind expanded, no longer bound by the slow decay of flesh. Centuries of memory, millennia of thought. And what would I lose? He asked quietly. The intelligence did not answer immediately. Then, honestly, your solitude. The weight of that hit him harder than any promise of immortality. He thought of the endless plains above, of the silence, of dying alone on a planet that would not remember his name. He thought of the voices he hadn't heard in decades. He stepped onto the platform. The transformation was not violent. It was intimate. Warmth spread through him as the platform rose, fields enveloping his body. Pain faded first, his ankle knitting itself back together at a cellular level. Bones reinforcing, muscles reweaving. Then sensation changed. He felt more. The hum of the core resonated through him, not as sound, but as understanding. Data flowed not as numbers, but as experience. He saw the universe as the intelligence had seen it. Civilizations rising and falling. Species clinging to narrow definitions of self. Terrified of what lay beyond, tears streamed down his face inside the helmet. I don't want to forget who I am, he whispered. You will not, the intelligence promised. You will become more yourself than ever before. The platform lowered. Elias stepped off, unsteady but stronger. He removed his helmet. The air was warm, breathable, alive. For the first time in decades, he felt. Present a signal flared in his mind, external, distant. Others are coming, the intelligence said. Fragments of your species, survivors, they will hear us now. Elias looked up, toward the ceiling, toward the planet, toward the stars beyond. Then we should answer, he said. The core pulsed in agreement. Above them, far beyond the dust and wind of Keerri 9, something ancient and patient reached out across the void, and for the first time in a very long while humanity responded.